Here's to George, the curious little monkey. He's so full of curiosity. Here's to George, the curious little monkey. He's as curious can be.
Curious George and the Puppeteer. "We're going to visit my friend the Puppeteer today, George," said the man with the yellow hat. So they got in their little blue car and drove off. Mr. Funicelli was carving a fish when they arrived. The man asked Mr. Funicelli to make him a wooden bird. "We'll have to go to the shed to choose some wood," said Mr. Funicelli. "Okay," said the man. "You can stay here, George, but don't get into trouble." George looked around. On a shelf, he saw a puppet that wasn't finished yet. Could he finish it? George was curious. He jumped onto the counter and picked it up. Pieces of wood were all over. George picked one up. It looked like a leg, so he stuck it on. It was easy. But something was wrong. The puppet looked lopsided. George tried more pieces, but the more he tried, the worse it got. George kept on working, but it just never looked right. In a little while, he heard Mr. Funicelli and the man coming back. Quickly, he put the puppet back on the shelf, jumped down, and hid under the table. "I should have that bird for you in 2 weeks," said Mr. Funicelli. "Fine," said the man. "Excuse me," said Mr. Funicelli. "I must finish a puppet." He reached up to the shelf. "What's this?" he said. "What happened to my puppet? It's ruined." Then he bent down, and there was George hiding under the counter. "So you did it," he shouted. George was scared. It was time to get away. But just as he reached the door, a lady walked in. The door pushed George back, straight into the arms of the man with the yellow hat. "Oh, I'm sorry," said the lady. "Our school is having a puppet show today. It needs a monster puppet." "I haven't got one," said Mr. Funicelli. "Wait, what's that?" asked the lady. "Why, it does look like a monster," said the man. "I'll take it," said the lady. "How can we work it? It needs 4 hands." And she turned to the man with the yellow hat. "May I borrow your monkey for the performance?" "Sure," said the man, "and I'll go with him." "Me too," said Mr. Funicelli. So all of them, George, the lady, the man with the yellow hat, and Mr. Funicelli, went to the school. George worked the puppet with all 4s. The children laughed and cheered. "That's the funniest puppet I've ever seen," said a little girl. The lady, the man, and Mr. Funicelli laughed just as hard as the children. "You shouldn't have fooled around with my puppets," said Mr. Funicelli after the show. "But you sure did make up for it." A week later, a package arrived for George. He opened it, and there was a puppet. It looked just like George.